Hey everybody, what's going on? Today, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm standing outside of my barbershop here in the Dallas area and wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind. The barbershop, community, and policing. Now, stick with me. This is going to connect in ways that you probably didn't expect. Let's go inside. So, as many of you know, I'm a retired Fort Worth police officer. I've enjoyed that career. I served those communities for years, and now I'm fortunate enough to really take and teach the next generation of police officers. But you know what? Some of the most important lessons don't come from the textbook. They come from places like the barbershop. I've been coming to see Paul, my barber, for years now. And I've been giving him a hard time about being interviewed on camera about policing. He always laughs and says, maybe in the future, man. But today, as I was walking in, taking these random videos, I had a realization. Maybe the interview doesn't need to be with Paul specifically. Maybe it needs to be about this place, about what happens here, about people who come here, and about the conversations that take place within these walls. So let me tell you something about barbershops that often get overlooked with regard to community and policing. Barbershops are more than just places where people get their hair trimmed, cut, and styled. They are cultural hubs where conversations flow freely, wisdom is shared, and community bonds are strengthened. The atmosphere of a barbershop, well, it's really unique. It's filled with laughter, camaraderie, and a sense of belonging. Whether you're discussing the latest sports game, for us it's the Cowboys, the Mavs, the Stars. Whether you're sharing life stories or simply enjoying the banner, the barbershop is a place that welcomes everyone. Barbershops have been a staple in communities for generations, serving as more than just a place for grooming. The quotes and wisdom that emerge from these settings often reflect the experiences, the humor, and life lessons of those who frequent the barbershop. So let me tell you something that really opened my mind with regard to this subject when I was getting ready for this episode. So I started digging into the cultural aspects of the barbershop, especially with regard to barbershops in the Black community, the historical context, everything that you could put into it. And what I found was really profound. Okay, listen to this quote from a history professor. And I quote, "The barbershop is where men come to connect." Actually, he said it's where Black men come to connect. But I think you could say that the barbershop is where many men come to connect. The barbershop is where Black men come to reconnect, to be themselves, and to enjoy each other's company. I think here you could see where the professor is emphasizing that the barbershop has a vital role as a social hub. Think about what that means for a moment. In a society where, well, let's be honest, Black men are often stereotyped, profiled, or treated with suspicion, including, unfortunately, by some in law enforcement. The barbershop represents something precious. It's a space of authenticity and safety. Scholars describe the barbershop as private spaces in the public sphere for Black men, a place to celebrate their sense of Blackness and escape society's false depictions of Blackness. You know, this is really critical for anyone in law enforcement. When we talk about community, building trust, communication among groups, uh, again, the barbershop is really an integral part of that. That's where community happens. It's something we need to take into context and really understand. Did you know that there's even a poem called The Barbershop is the Black Church? This is by Nandy Shelton, that describes the barbershop as a place where men, women, and children find purpose, guidance, community, and yes, acceptance. The church, and for this conversation, the Black church. Think about the weight of that comparison. I mean, you'd agree, churches are sacred spaces, places of refuge, spiritual growth, and community support. To compare the barbershop to that institution tells you everything you need to know about its importance. Let me tell you some of the things that I've observed while going to my barbershop and others like it. The conversations here are real, they're unfiltered. People talk about their jobs, their families, their struggles, and their victories. They talk about sports, politics, relationships, and yes, they talk about policing. I've heard conversations in barbershops that have challenged my thinking as a police officer and as an educator. I've heard perspectives on traffic stops, on use of force, on the justice systems that you don't find really in any textbook. These conversations aren't taking place in a vacuum. They're informed by lived experiences. When someone talks about their interaction with police in a barbershop, everyone in that room has either had a similar experience or really knows someone who has. And that's what makes these spaces so valuable. They're where community truth gets spoken, where people don't have to code switch or perform, where the mask really tends to come off, and that's a good thing. I think I could argue that as someone who's dedicated a large majority of my life to law enforcement and then to education, um, it's important that we understand. I believe that we need to listen to these conversations, not to monitor them, not to police them, but to get a better understanding of them. So let's connect this to policing. I mean, that, John, you're bridging policing and the barbershop. I mean, that's really why we're all here, right? In my classes in both the academy and on the academic setting, I really underscore how policing, particularly community policing, delves into bridging communication gaps with the community, the public. But here's what I tell my students. You can't build trust in a community you don't understand. You can't partner with people whose spaces, whose culture, whose experiences you don't respect or value. The barbershop is one of those spaces. Really, think about that. It is one of those spaces. And while police officers might not be frequent customers in every barbershop, understanding what these spaces represent is crucial. Now, imagine if police officers understood that. Imagine if, instead of seeing a group of men gathered outside a barbershop as suspicious, they saw it for what it is: community happening in real time. I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate law enforcement concerns that really might bring police to any location, including the barbershop. But I am saying that our baseline understanding of these spaces should be rooted in respect and cultural awareness. One of the biggest disconnects, failures in modern policing is not understanding that we have to bridge gaps within the communities that we serve. Particularly, we have to have communications goals that enhance our ability to work with the public. There's a disconnect, again, between communities that we serve and modern policing. And that disconnect often comes from a lack of understanding. The barbershop, well, it's a community asset, period. So what can law enforcement learn from the barbershop culture? Tons. First, the importance of safe spaces. Well, the barbershop works because people feel safe here, physically, emotionally, and culturally. They can be themselves without judgment. Police and community relationships thrive when people feel safe with law enforcement, not just physically safe, but safe to voice concerns, safe to ask questions, safe to be human. Second, the power of consistency. I mean, Paul has been cutting hair in this community for years. People trust him because he shows up day after day, serving his community with skill and care. These same principles apply to policing. Trust isn't built through one-time community events. It's really built through consistent, positive interactions over time. Third, the value of listening. In a barbershop, everybody talks, but everybody also listens. Stories get shared, perspectives get heard, and yes, people feel valued. In law enforcement, we're trained to be the authority, to take control, to direct situations. But sometimes the most powerful thing an officer can do is listen. I mean, really listen to the community members. Fourth, respect for culture. The barbershop doesn't try to be something that it's not. It embraces cultural identity. And really, when you think about it that way, that's what makes it authentic and valued. Police officers and police agencies need to do the same. Respect the cultural identities of the communities they serve and not expect those communities to conform to the law enforcement culture. You know, that's why I keep joking with Paul about interviewing people here about policing. It's because I genuinely want to hear these perspectives, their perspectives. So here's where I ask you, how do you view police? What experiences have shaped your views? And what improvements need to be made? These are the conversations that really matter. They matter. These are the questions that, if we're honest, could answer them, well, they would go to transforming police and community relations. Maybe one day, Paul will let me set up shop here, yeah, pun intended, and have those conversations on camera. But until then, I'm content to observe, to learn, and to share what I'm seeing with all of you. Learn about the cultural spaces in your community, whether it's a barbershop, a church, a community center, a restaurant, a park. Find out where the community happens, where it begins. Educate yourself about what those spaces mean to the people who meet there. Don't approach these spaces with suspicion or as opportunities for enhancement. Instead, I would think that you would approach them with curiosity and respect. Understand that these places are where community bonds are formed, where trust is built, and really where culture is celebrated. If you have the opportunity, support these spaces. Get your hair cut at a local barbershop. Eat at local restaurants. I do love the local restaurant. Attend community events, not as a police officer on duty, but as a member of the community. I think what I'm trying to say is show up as a person, not just a badge. Okay, so this is where I think Paul, Dana, Don, I can't think of the other gentleman's name, they're at the barbershop. Everybody at the barbershop, all the people that cut hair there, the beauticians, Miss Coco, everyone and everybody who goes there, because you really are part of the community and you add to this conversation. So thank you. The barbershop is more than a place for haircuts. It's where community happens. It's where culture is celebrated. It's where conversations that shape perspectives take place. And really, if we're serious about community policing, if we're serious about building bridges between law enforcement and the communities that are served, we need to understand and respect spaces like this, like the barbershop. All right, so that's it for today's episode of Blue on Blue. Hope I've given you something to think about, something to talk about. I do love to stir the pot. Anyway, it adds to the conversation, right? And Paul, if you're looking at this video, the offer for the interview still stands, my man. And until next time, stay safe, stay involved, stay aware, and remember, we're all part of the same community.